Fade you in. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action.
Good morning, everybody, and first and foremost, a happy Valentine's Day to all the wonderful black queens out here, and to all the kings. Be sure, if you're a king, you take her home, squeeze her, tease her, and please her. Buy her some candy, get her some flowers, and I guarantee you the rest will be history from there. My name is Al Bridges. You are listening to the Body Talk program, which addresses your mind, body, and soul. We encourage you to think, talk, and more important, we're coming to you from No Static Radio, located in Cleveland, Ohio, where we bring the noise and no static. Body Talk is a program for your mind, body, and soul. We will have the news and topics that will have you thinking and talking for the rest of the day, if not the rest of the week. To join the Body Talk discussion, please call area code 216-939-5087. That number, if you want to call in with a comment or a question, area code 216-939-5087, or if you prefer, you can email your comment and or questions directly to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. That's bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. Sometime during the day, we will be taking 120-second break. For you who are math majors, that's 10 minutes. But I want to get right into the program because this young lady, we brought her back home today. Our first and foremost, our guest is Lila Parker, who's a writer for Signal Cleveland. Lila is going to share with us information about Signal Cleveland Publishing, the type of stories she develops, reports, and writes about, along with her many, several community involvements in the greater Cleveland area. So, first off, Lila, happy Valentine's Day to you, and welcome to Body Talk.
Happy Love Day. It's good to be home at No Static Radio. I really missed you guys.
Well, before we get into the crowd is ruckus again. They're ruckus. You have a wonderful smile.
Thank you.
To begin with, I said you were coming back home. Explain what that means to the audience here.
So, everybody, coming back home, No Static Radio was actually one of the very first media outlets that gave me a chance. Marie and I were actually classmates or schoolmates at what was then
the Ohio Center for
Broadcasting, and now it's the Ohio Media School. Being here at No Static Radio means a lot. It's like being born into what I want it to be. You know, people say, "Oh, I know I made it," when I'm saying who I am, what I want it to be. So it's like very important to just come back and just be welcome. You know, not burn bridges. I will say that. I will add that. When you're on a rise in any part of your career, you always want to be able to go back where you started from.
Okay. Well, first off, tell us what Signal Cleveland is. What is Signal Cleveland?
So Signal Cleveland is the latest news outlet here in Cleveland. Right now we're focusing on Central Community. We are just, listening, getting their concerns, any questions that they may have, or any events that may be taking place, and seeing how we can bring more value to that area. Because, like many areas here, they're considered underserved.
Okay, now when you say Central Community, are you talking about the central area of Cleveland, or are you talking about Cleveland proper itself?
The central area of Cleveland. So right now, where they have us covering is from 55th and Central to 18th and Central. However, we're just moving around, not really keeping that in a perimeter exactly, but it's our focal point. So if we do reach out to somebody maybe from the west side, Maple Heights, east side, we just talked about this whole east side, west side thing. But we're open to the whole city of Cleveland.
Okay, and we'll talk about the east side, west side, your word thing, later on here. You prior to, and sometimes the best interviews actually occur prior to going live on the show.
Right.
And you talked about, or you mentioned, you listen. That's the goal of Signal. So you're actually doing a listening tour.
Yes.
In what capacity are you listening? What stories do you write about, or do you develop and report upon?
So one of my very first stories was in regard to ghetto therapy. Is a program that takes place and created by a central resident. His name is Walter Patton. And he saw a need to heal his community. He wanted to heal his neighborhood. He's been through a number of things. He's faced incarceration. He's faced poverty. He's been faced with, just being a black man in the projects. I mean, it's just as blatant and clear as that. That's how he'll let you know. But I think that his vision came to life, and the ghetto therapy was worth the while, and I felt it was needed to write about. I also cover stories where there are residents in the central area who are underserved as far as housing, healthcare, finance, education. I need to know these things. I don't want to talk at these people. These people have an issue with visitors coming there looking as though they're giving them something, but they're talking at them, they're mistreating them, they're not really welcoming them.
Okay, let's back up for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to use some consulting talk. Let's take a soft stop for
Let's.
just a minute. Walter Patton, is his ghetto therapy program ongoing today?
It's every Wednesday actually. So ghetto therapy is every Wednesday. Tomorrow is ladies' night. Excuse me. So that'll be great because today's Valentine's Day, ladies. If you want to come out, it's held at the Environmental Health Watch headquarters, which is just up the street from here on 46th and Euclid.
Okay.
From 6 to 9 p.m.
Do you have to sign up, or can you just be a walk-in?
You could just do a walk-in. Third Wednesdays are for men's nights. Every fourth Wednesday is teen night, and the first Wednesday is just. What's the first Wednesday? Look at me.
No, that's all right. So what does he talk about? What goes on in these sessions?
So actually, he talks, but he have other professionals come in, therapists, doctors, nurses, you name it. And even if you're someone in the audience who have a voice, he gives you that moment to have build a platform or something, or.
Now, you mentioned a voice,
Mm-hmm.
and you're listening to the central area.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just broaden that out to Cleveland for just a moment.
Yeah, sure.
What do you feel is some of the issues which you discussed or mentioned, the healthcare, the education, employment, et cetera,
Yeah.
Why do you think those issues continue to persist today? This just didn't happen yesterday.
No, it didn't. The more I observe, I feel like it has a lot to do with the conditioning. It has a lot to do with, and this is considered Black History Month, it has a lot to do with the history of where we started with things, the history of how were we given this place, the history of, okay, how did my great-great-grandparents end up in the central community, and 30 years later, I have 3 generations of cousins who are still there. That's exactly what it is. It's that long line, and it's exactly what Walter Patton speaks on, the redlining.
But I gotta interject and say that, the now Central wasn't the then Central.
Absolutely not.
Because my grandfather owned, a couple of gas stations in the area of Huff,
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a point, Marie.
And Quincy, and there were beautiful areas
Thriving.
back then. Yeah, my other grandfather, the address was 4807 Woodland Avenue.
Wow.
We know there's absolutely nothing over there now but junk and old building and grass and stuff.
Not even a healthy green space.
Yeah, it was a beautiful area back then. So it's the what happened into making it what it was today, because these were thriving communities, just like the Buckeye area.
Yes.
Was a thriving Renaissance community, and what happened, so.
And if you don't recognize the other wonderful, beautiful voice, that's Marie. She's the proud owner and producer of No Static Radio. And we're coming to you live on No Static Radio. This is the Body Talk program, which addresses your mind, body, and soul. If you have a question or would like to comment, please feel free and dial 216-939-5087. Both of you mentioned all these 2 and 3 syllable letter words, Renaissance, and I'm going to say most of us, I did not grow up in the central area. I grew up in the Mount Pleasant area, then to Lee Harvard, but that's all under the bridge.
Mr. Bridges.
What's important, no pun intended, what's important here is, now my parents did grow up in the central area. They attended Central High School.
Wow.
And as Marie pointed out, what we see as central today was not central back then.
Mm-hmm.
It was a proud, quote unquote, Black community.
Yes.
Now, I still ask you, and if you can give me your opinion, I still ask you and other people what happened. And you use the term projects. And I'm going to equate it to another term.
Let's.
The projects is a reservation.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now we can go there. Let us go there. Caller on the line.
Yes, caller. May I have your name and your question or comment?
Yes. Good morning. This is Roland calling from University Heights. How are you all today?
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to ask you a question as it applies to the neighborhoods. And what effect, either positive or negative or neutral, do you believe, in your opinion, does gentrification have upon our inner city neighborhoods, not only here in Cleveland, but this is a phenomenon that we're seeing across the country? Is gentrification a good thing, or is it something that takes away from the richness and the traditions in our neighborhoods?
Roland, I'm going to let the two ladies answer first, get their comment because it's Valentine's Day, and I'm going to go to our guest, and that's Lila. Do you have a comment? Or?
Yes. Roland, how are you? I want to touch on a few things, but this is really a touchy subject, and it's only because it's not spoken about. I think we need to have think tanks discussing where we're headed as far as gentrification go. My thing as far as gentrification go is though, it was orchestrated for the neighborhood to deteriorate this way. Like Mr. Bridges and Marie just mentioned, the Central we knew is not the Central we know now. So between that time, what tactics were placed to bring our people down mentally, financially, educationally, just even physically, meaning they don't have to get up to even want to have a better neighborhood. Gentrification is really like, I hate to say it, a cancer coming for us fast if we don't do something. It's scary.
Well, before, excuse me, interruption.
No
Mm-hmm.
interruption.
I think if you could briefly define what gentrification means.
Well, define it.
Roland, what's your opinion?
Oh, you're asking me? Okay,
yes.
Gentrification basically is that when inner city neighborhoods that have a low tax base,
on purpose,
new housing like condos, sometimes housing themselves, are built in those neighborhoods, and they're built at a price where the people who originally lived in those neighborhoods could no longer afford them, and so they apply to people who are more wealthy, thus increasing the tax base. So some would say that would be the positive benefit of it, but the very negative benefit of it is that now that those people who were there, they can no longer afford to live there.
Absolutely.
Because the tax base has gone up and it drives them out of the neighborhood and brings in a different class of people.
Okay, and thank you for the definition, Roland, and your comment. See, one of the things, and I'm going to add a prefix to gentrification. Mm-hmm. I call it regentrification, because people are actually returning or want to return to where they initially were. And I mentioned early on, about a couple minutes ago actually, where you said projects. A project is nothing but a reservation, where a certain culture or class of people is encouraged, more so forced to live. And going back to Marie, no, the central community is not what it used to be, and everything is biological. Everything. So will Central come back to what it was, let's say in 1930, 1940, or 50s? Yes, it will. Will we be part of that renaissance? Probably not.
It doesn't look like it.
No,
it doesn't look like
it.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay.
So one of the things we must keep in consideration here, and there's multiple variables, so if I leave one out or add one that people aren't comfortable with, that's fine. One of the things that we have to understand is who is representing us, so that doesn't happen.
And who is that?
I don't know. No, when I say I don't know,
No.
When I mean that, you, in the city of Cleveland, because we're talking about the central area, we're talking about the city is divided off in wards.
Oh, let's talk about the redistricting right on.
No, well, the city is divided
Yeah.
off in wards. And one of the things that nauseates me is when you have certain so-called East Side councilmen
Mm-hmm.
stand up and say the West Side gets this, the West Side does this, the West Side has whatever, all the positive things.
Mm-hmm.
And let me be clear, the East and West and North and South are geographical points on a map.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a council member who stands up and says what I repeated earlier, he or she is telling on themselves because they don't do anything.
There we go.
There's a song, and I'm sorry I can't remember the group. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
I know.
Billy Preston.
Thank you, Bill. Roland, you are an expert on everything.
Yes, yes.
So Billy Preston, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. I don't need an Excel spreadsheet or a Lotus 1, 2, 3 to determine that this individual or individuals don't represent my best interest. The other thing, Roland, and if you can stay on the line for a minute, see, you often hear this new term bannered about, development.
Yeah.
You reach a point where there's no more soil to develop. And I can only speak for Lee Harvard. You're not going to get a Fortune 500 or 50 company to relocate to Lee Harvard.
No.
You're not going to have $250,000 homes built in Lee Harvard. We have to reach a point to understand we have to have resilience to retain what we have, to build upon it, to strengthen it. When you hear, and I'm going to, and I'm trying not to get Lila involved in this, but if she wants to answer, she can. See, when you hear City Council allocate $12 million to take care of Shaker Square, but you don't hear City Council allocating money to take care of people's homes.
Cleveland City Council, that is, guys.
Thank you.
For the city of Shaker Heights, which is a separate city.
Well, but Shaker Heights really is not in. This Shaker Square is not in Shaker. That is actually Cleveland property.
Yeah.
That's Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a name that was given to it.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
So see, one of the things, I'm going back to Roland's comment about gentrification, can we really stop it? See, and again, one of the things, and it's a question to both Lila and Marie, economically, independently, we can't. Collectively, we might.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the premises of gentrification, if you want to call it a scheme, is if I can keep the so-called black community ignorant, is stupid,
Yes.
then we don't realize what's happening. And then we turn to somebody, going back to Billy Preston, why am I talking to a zero?
Yep.
Why am I depending on a zero to do something for me? He or she doesn't have that ability. So Lila, let's be specific here. Gentrification is occurring in Central.
Yeah.
The question is, where do those residents go once they move them off the reservation? And I want you to think of the indigenous people,
Oh, yeah.
the American Indian, if that's, I don't want to be offensive.
No.
Yeah,
Where-
indigenous, you were right.
Right.
Yeah, where do these people go?
They don't care. It
Well,
Go ahead,
Go
Roland.
ahead, Roland.
I'm sorry, and I'm gonna go because I'm sure you all have other callers, but let me make this point first before I attempt to answer that question. Gentrification is not just a Cleveland issue. Gentrification is taking place in major cities across this country.
Yeah.
And what you see, the paradox of it is this. On the one hand, you do as a city want to increase your tax base because those tax dollars supposedly, and I'm doing air quotes here, you all can't
I see you, Jeff.
but supposedly, then this increased tax base will go into city services to improve city services. And that's a whole nother debate when it comes to this city because of the court jesters that we have in city council for the most part.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, where do people go, specifically when it comes to the city of Cleveland, when they're gentrified so they can no longer afford the tax base? They are pushed out to areas that are away from that area. So the gentrified area here in Cleveland is the area around Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah.
For a huge reason, because they want those doctors and nurses and healthcare people to live in that area because of the salary they bring to generate the taxes. So
And the West
those
25th
individuals
area.
who no longer can afford to live in that neighborhood are now being pushed out to Mount Pleasant,
Maple Heights.
east, and maybe west, going into Section 8 in some of the suburbs, or in the traditional housing projects that are in the near downtown. And so that's what's happening.
All right, Roland, we thank you for your comment, and please feel free to call next week or anytime that you have the opportunity. You're listening to Body Talk
Thank you.
on No Static Radio. If you have a comment or a question, you can call area code 216-939-5087, or you can email your comment and or question to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. So Lila, let's somewhat carry on the discussion with Roland and tie it back to your story and the information you gave about the gentleman, Mr. Patton. See, these are, and I'm not saying that a lot of people don't know about the ghetto therapy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to presume a lot of people don't know. See, there are a lot of individuals in and around Cleveland who are doing things. If you want to call them community-based organizations, if you can sound government, if you want through CBOs. They're doing things to try to help and save the people in their community and their property. So when you're on this listening tour, and I'm assuming you've done other listening tours in and around Cleveland, could you tell us about another one or a couple more that you've worked on?
So outside of Central, I've heard from the people in Mount Pleasant, only because Mount Pleasant is home for me. I went to A.J. Rickoff, I went to Charles Dickens, I grew up on 146, just as Marie did also. And listening to them, their concern is, honestly, I'm going to be honest, and this is just from this past week, people are scared of the people in their environment. And this is where that accountability piece comes into play. I know this is kind of steering away from the gentrification, but it's going to come right back to it.
Yeah, but we got to take ownership and, the things that have happened, because what made people not want to care about their neighborhoods anymore?
Rejection. I'm going to go apply for this and see if I can. Well, you're going to say that you're going to put this commercial. First of all, we're going to think about television or just broadcasting for a moment. You're going to put this ad out to tell me that I may be eligible for this this is just an example, work 2 weeks, I've worked 2 years at the same job, or if I have like a 540 credit score, but a 540 credit score wouldn't get me anything but a high interest rate. However, I'm going to go apply and try, get rejected, and then get rejected again, and then I'm going to see all this shiny material things that you're putting in my face that's the American dream. And when I realize I can't get it, or I realize that I'm 16 watching my 30-year-old mom try and can't get it, it's going to shoot me down and let me think, I ain't going to be able to get nothing either.
Yeah, well,
I ain't even going to try.
Yeah, well, we're not blind to the fact that the American dream wasn't, they weren't considering us.
It wasn't for us, absolutely. And that's where this comes down to, why they aren't trying, because people realize they can't do nothing for me. I hear residents in Central Mountain and Cleveland. I speak to residents in Mississippi. I speak to residents in Arkansas.
I've spoken to Africans that want to go back home. They feel like coming here, they started all over again, believing in this American dream process. Yeah. And they're like, you spent your whole life trying to achieve an American dream. And because, laws, equality, and things aren't just here, that, it's a whole waste of time coming here. They wish they'd have known before they came here, because a lot of them have given up life and everything that they've already established, in their home, wherever they live in Africa, to come here based on this American dream theory, and for it not to be true is, demoralizing, in some ways to a lot of them,
Could both of you help me out here? You just said they.
They, okay.
Hold on. Who are they? Give me, is it a position? Is it a specific person?
People.
Well, people.
Residents of Cleveland who have brown skin.
Absolutely.
The Cleveland Indians are brown.
But hold on. I'm going to repeat what you said.
Okay.
Your sentence. They can't do nothing for me. Who are they?
Well, the people who's promising them this loan that I probably can get to go buy a new home, or this loan I can get to go buy a new car, or this opportunity I can get for a job when my financial aid won't pay past the first semester of a quarter. These are just examples of what people go through, which leads them to feel like there's nothing I can do. I'm hopeless. I'm just gonna go get a job, pay my bills, and get my smokes and be done. I'm gonna hang with my people, and we're gonna cycle this.
You don't have to mention a name. You don't have to give me a bank name because I don't want them closing your account on the show. Okay.
I'm sorry, but I gotta say this. When I speak on the they, I'm speaking of European Americans, white America. I got a bad taste in my mouth for calling them white, just like calling us black. But that's something that we'll grow out of and grow into. You know, the more that the world learns who we are as a people.
Yeah.
But when I say they, I speak of white America.
Okay, so one of the things I think, especially for black folks, and I happen to be a black folk, we can't. We have to learn to stop speaking in generalities.
Okay.
If you can't define it, if you can't, I'm not picking on either one.
I totally agree.
If you cannot tell me who they are,
it's like saying the man.
who's the man? See, one of the, I'll do this really quick. I'm a former military officer and worked for the Navy and worked for nothing but the flag officers. But so what, as my parents would say.
Yeah.
And I remember we were in what was called stand-up with the admiral. And he got tired of his staff saying them or they. He said, I can't address something unless you give me a name.
Good point.
So
using personal pronouns is not an option, huh?
Right? Is that the norm today?
So we have to stop doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
We happen to live in Cleveland, Ohio. This is No Static Radio. We're listening to Body Talk.
Yes.
One of the things that's important here, the last time I looked, Cleveland, Ohio is a black-brown town.
It is. Is America not? Is this whole country not?
Now,
are we not the majority?
See, wait a minute.
Sorry.
Wait, no. See, one of the things, now, it's just my logic here. And if I say I don't care, I'm not saying I don't care.
Yeah.
What happens in Los Angeles doesn't affect me in Cleveland. What happens in Cleveland on 40th and Central affects me in Cleveland. So if you can't take care of home, don't go up the street tipping.
True. Don't
leave the boundaries of wherever. And see, when, again, earlier you mentioned, well, they're going to be moved to Maple Heights or whatever. The issue here is we have to understand the value of what we own.
Yeah.
And we have to take care of it. I can't depend on them or they.
True.
Them or they really don't care.
They don't, and that's where that accountability piece comes in.
So
You're
accountability
right.
to what?
Accountability to ourselves. Accountability in checking ourselves and saying, well, we're not going to keep holding our hand out, are we? Are we going to keep holding our hand out for them? And when I say them, you know what I'm saying. Are we going to keep holding our hand out at the cheese line to see if we'll get a better quality of cheese? Or are we going to just keep accepting this low-grade cheese? This is just an example.
Well, and Lila, you bring up an interesting point. See, we have our hand out. And see, one of the things that I think we, meaning black folk, have to get over. If you have your hand out, I can give you what you want. I can give you what I want. I want
you to have, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have to give you what you need.
Okay, there we go.
I can give you cheese that never melts.
Which we eat at McDonald's, you guys.
So we have to, when you talk about accountability, see, all this starts at home.
Yeah.
And if you, again, look at Cleveland, we're looking at a somewhat questionable education system.
Somewhat? Go on.
Well, we can talk about a somewhat educational system. We're talking about a somewhat city services. Now, I'm going to focus on that for a minute. On the week of January the 10th.
2023?
Yes, of this year.
Okay.
The city put orange signs up on the utility poles in the Lee Harp area, if not across the city.
Saying what?
Leaf pickup.
Okay.
What?
Leaf pickup. Now, I have a new term for 23. See, that's the Yoki dog. It snows in January. So you're going to put leaf pickup signs on poles to be picked up, and it's snowing because you didn't pick them up when you were supposed to in September, October, November.
And why do you think they didn't pick them up, Al?
Because the city didn't want to. See, the city has budgetary issues, and they let the casual, temporary people go instead of keeping them to work that vacuum holes. The mayor mentioned, he came out and said, well, we're not going to pick the leaves up because the equipment is antiquated and old. Well, if you knew that back in November, back in January, either you should have bought equipment or made it unantiquated and a little bit newer.
Mm.
He sent his city services director out to a community meeting, and his reverberating thing was, I've only been here 100 days. I've only been here 100 days. And so we asked him,
Yeah.
we asked the gentleman, are you going to vacuum the leaves? Well, no, you should continue to bag them.
Mm.
So the most of us got up and walked out.
So, and I want you to continue to elaborate on that, but I think when it comes to certain issues like this in the city, we need to think in terms of solution. We need to think in terms of, okay, we're all a family. If city council or the mayor is saying that the equipment is inadequate to be used to properly do its job, why not put some of these grassroots beginner businesses in service? Give them a piece of the dollar who already have the equipment to go and do these jobs and let them cover certain wards.
Well,
I don't really want to tear down whatever they got going on. It's just a mess.
Well, see, one of the things, like when you address problems, you should really focus on the problem and not the person. But in some instances, the person comes into play here, and I'm not here to ridicule the mayor or whoever. See, one of the things that's important is we're depending on those servants to serve us. They should not be self-serving. They should be serving us.
I agree.
I'm going to speak for myself and obviously some other people. We wouldn't have had a problem if the city would have came out in June and said, well, we're not going to pick up leaves. So we would have done what we needed to do. Go spend $300 on plastic bags, continue to put leaves in the bag, and the city comes by and picks them up, and then going back to city service director. We're only going to pick up 5 bags every time at each line.
So,
but
a slap in the face.
Well,
is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's the yoki doke
thing.
Mm-hmm. But what's important here, and what I really want to get to, is if we have to learn how to vote.
Okay, let's talk about that. What do you mean by that? We need to learn how to vote.
Well, you're interviewing me, okay?
Oh.
No, that's fine. We have to learn how to vote.
Okay.
There's 2 ways to vote. Either you vote emotionally or you vote intellectually. Emotional voting means I'm going to vote for you because you're my cousin, you dated my sister, you dated my brother, or whatever the case is, or I went to high school with you, which you never graduated from, a perpetual student.
Yeah.
That's emotional voting.
Okay.
Intellectual voting is, well, let me sit and listen, ask questions, and say, this person is a clown. I'm going to take my vote and put it over here. And I'm going to vote for, I'm just going to use your name, I'm going to vote for Lila Parker versus whoever. That's what we don't do. Because if you look, and I'm going to use, it was some psychologist who said, if you continue to do the same thing and think you're going to get a different result, that's insanity. That was Sigmund Freud. If the city or a certain ward or wards are being diminished and degraded, you have to look at the person who's supposed to be serving you.
Okay, I'll take that.
That's
just new food for my thoughts.
Well, see, one of the things, and you 2 ladies can chime in, is are term limits really the way to go now?
That's something that I've been thinking about. Meaning, it only had me thinking that way because we have let go some leaders that I've seen, and I won't mention any names, that I feel should have stayed there. You put someone new in, and it's worse than when this guy. And I don't say that, but I say that to say maybe the first year of a new position is just getting the wheels turning, but where are we headed is the question.
Well, Lila, in politics, you often hear this term: he or she's in a honeymoon period.
Yeah.
Okay. Or it's the first 100 days.
But is that acceptable? Is that okay for me to vote for you to lead and you're having a honeymoon, so I need to be mindful of how you're taking this and I'm suffering in results? along with 5,000 plus other residents?
I don't, and again, I'm not trying to be insultive to you or anybody else or even a listener on listening to Body Talk or No Static Radio. See, one of the things, when you raise your right hand and take an oath,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's for the president, vice president, Congress, consul, or whatever, you own it that day.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot stand up there and say 3 or 4 days later, oh, well, I inherited not enough snow removal equipment from the previous administration. I don't hear that.
Mm-hmm.
You own this. When you get married, you're married. Now you can go to the Bahamas or Akron for your honeymoon and come back. You can even go to Gates Mills.
Yeah.
They got some hotel up there somewhere. All right, and come back. You're married. No honeymoon. It's time to put up or shut up.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to perform.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't have in Cleveland. See, in my background, we call that vaporware.
Hey, what is vaporware?
You're selling nothing but vapor. When you press that steam button on the iron, you see that poof of water come out, it's steam, that's vaporware.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sell vapor. Don't sell three-letter acronyms or whatever. People want services delivered. They want their life to improve. The question that most people, and I have to give Ronald Reagan credit for it, he said, is your life better today than it was 4 years ago?
Mm. I'll pass on the Ronald Reagan.
No, it's not.
I get it.
I have to give attribution. Okay, I'm a former academic. That's called plagiarism, integrity. You got to give credit where credit's due.
Yes.
All right. That's the question that voters need to ask themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't. And they look around, and Stevie Wonder can see certain things.
It's as far as the voter go, I think voters need to be re-educated.
What, to go in the color of bubble?
No, to go in, like just what you said, how are you voting? It needs to be like some type of mental therapy session. Are you voting emotionally or are you voting intellectually? Is that considered steering? And this is me asking you as a scholar. If I do something like that, is that considered steering?
It's not necessarily, I wouldn't consider it steering. I'm going to call it a developmental process.
Mm-hmm.
See, one of the things, and I understand, I think I understand, I hope I understand, where you say re-educate voters. See, first off, people have to vote.
Right, and that'll go along the lines. Bring them out for something, to speak to them.
Well, I don't need a $25 gift card
That's what they're going
to
do.
vote.
Yeah. Now that's not acceptable though, right?
Well, if you're inducing me to vote, which is against the Ohio Revised
yes.
Code, all right? But one of the things that's important here is the Black community has to come out and vote. When
They
you
don't
hear, and I can't remember the Cleveland City Council member who said, well, I'm proud because we had a 8% turnout. Really?
No way. That is
You're
awful.
you're proud of that. Now, I'm not saying that, stand up there and scream and holler and curse at people, but it would have been better if he would have said, well, the turnout really wasn't as good as it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get into the 18, 20, 30, 40% range, all right?
Yeah.
And see, one of the things when you think of Cleveland,
Okay.
is technically a Democratic town. Now you have to look how the party is organized.
Spending time with people. And
No.
No. This is my comment. Spending time with people. I wouldn't say that. I would say that democracy is placed upon these people. They don't even know. Some of these people don't even have a clue when it comes to Democrats and Republicans time to voting. This is why I'm saying re-education.
Well, I call it the party Christmas card that comes out in October or August, where it has everybody's picture on it. These are the people you should vote for, but they don't tell you anything about them. And when I say a Democratic town, I mean more so from a party perspective. The Democratic Party, my opinion, the Democratic Party is more of an incumbency party. They support incumbents here. And some of the incumbents don't have the necessary requirements, the basic requirements. And you don't have to have some high powerful degree.
Yeah.
They're smarter people who just graduate from high school.
Yeah.
Bill Gates is a classic example. All right.
Wow. Yeah.
No,
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
I just don't even.
So, one of the basis
Mhm.
is you better have a good character, you better be a person of integrity, and you better be somebody you can trust. And more so, there's variables under that. I'm not going to vote for a consistent chronic liar.
True.
You know, there's a euphemistic phrase that says, we can't believe half the things you say.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain people, I can't believe anything they say.
That's right.
That's true. And you know, I want to just rewind just a little bit, maybe 10 seconds. People feel insulted when these people come out and what is it? When does election start? These people come out a month before election and try to act like they care. The community is insulted. See, this is why I kind of steer away from being political correct, because I listen to what these people are saying, y'all. The community residents, I'm talking about Cleveland residents, feel that these people are insulting them by coming in their neighborhoods and asking for their help and not giving them anything until they make these empty promises.
Well, Lila, part of that is true.
Yeah.
But now I'm seeing something different.
Like what?
It used to be people who were elected, they would come out, you know, they might give you a piece of chicken at the party. But now, during the re-election phase, it starts the day they're elected. It's not a grace period anymore. And if you look at their performance, you know, show me. Let's do the Missouri thing.
Okay, let's.
Show me. There's nothing to show. Now you hear people say, "Oh, well, you know, I did $100 million of development in Ward whatever, Ward 0."
Outside of the people who need it.
No, well, hold on. I'm talking about in a ward.
I get it.
See, and let me give you a basis of comparison. Sherwin-Williams, that new beautiful building they're putting up downtown, it's a $438 million project.
Okay.
So let's lower the number and make it easy. It's a $400 million project. So you can see what $400 million look like, right? 100 million is a quarter of 400.
Yeah.
So if you drive through anybody's ward, you should be able to see $100 million of something. Corner stores and gas stations.
Does not count. Dollar Generals does not count. F-grade streets do count. You know what I'm saying?
And you can't take credit for CMSD buildings. You can't take credit for things that happened when you weren't in office.
Well, we have a CMSD building, but what's inside? What's taking place inside of the CMSD building? What is the grade of the education system here in Cleveland? See, those are the things to look at and consider. Otherwise, you just have a beautiful building with what inside?
Well, and again, thank you for the interview. So, one of the things that we have to become in touch with again. See, education used to be important to black folks in the city of Cleveland. It's no longer important. Now, it's important to some, but it's not important enough. When you can't get mom and daddy or the guardian even to come to a PTA or a status, whatever meeting.
Or even send a kid to school. I mentor at four different CMSD schools, and I tell you, 2 of my classrooms that I mentor for, at 2 different schools now, they only have 1 little girl in the classroom and like maybe 9 boys. And I said, where are the other little girls? And she says, oh, they just don't come here. They just don't come to school.
Well, you're listening to Body Talk on No Static Radio. If you want to get in touch with us or leave a comment or ask a question, please dial 216-939-5087. Or you can email your comment directly to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. And right now we have Lila Parker. I just have one quick question before you depart, because I know you have to be out there in the streets like Jimmy Olsen used to be from Superman, the reporter. It's Black History Month.
Okay.
So who is your historical or present Black history figure or an event?
So as we were talking earlier, and I thought about this question, I would have to say my favorite realization of history is understanding that what's in me is inside of you, what's inside of you is inside of Marie and a lot of other different people collectively, where we can come together and our oneness can help us to realize what is really his story. That's what's important to me when it comes to I would say my favorite part of Black history, if you like to say.
Okay, Marie, do you have one, or are you going to save?
Well, I have a few, here at No Static Radio, like 6 days a week, I do Art History 365 because, I'm just not for the confinement of 1 month and it being the shortest month of the year. So we acknowledge our historians every day of the week that we're on live shows here. So, I can name off, several people like Granville T. Woods, who did everything from the telephone transmitter to the electric cutoff switch, to the relay instrument, the telephone system, the galvanic battery, electric railway system, roller coaster, auto air brakes. Or how about Marie Brown, who created the home security system in 1963? Or how about Mary Bonner Brenner, who created the maxi pad? Well, back then, what was it called? What did y'all call it before with the maxi pad?
What is a maxi pad?
A maxi pad is
it's a sanitary napkin.
Sanitary napkin
for women.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was finally recognized in 1833, but it took 30 years for them to accept the patent because it was a black woman.
Wow.
So they was walking around nasty, linky, and stinking.
Free washing cloths.
Yeah, stinking. When all they had to do was accept this fine black woman's beautiful sanitary invention, but everything that's sanitary we created. The forks and knives, I could go on. C.B. Brooks created the street sweeper. Shout out, to all my gearheads, to Jay Gregory, who created the motor. Here we go.
Caller, welcome to Body Talk. And what's your name, please? And where are you calling from?
Don't be afraid to get in on this now. David A. Fisher, the furniture caster. Joseph Dickinson, created the piano.
Nice.
Player Old Dorsey, the doorknob, the doorstop. Like it goes on and on. Henry Blair, the corn planter. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Paints and Stains, G.O.W. Caver, the ice cream mold, A. Krill, William, who am I thinking of? How about Latimer and Nichols, the two brothers from another mother who created the electric lamp? How about electric itself? How about Jay Standard, who created the refrigerator? How about Tim Stewart, who created the mop? All our people. Mm-hmm. All our people. William Martin, who created the lock, like the shoe machine. Jan, I forgot. I don't want to miss it. She was mixed, but she claimed her ethnicity as being black nonetheless. She created the shoe machine. Lubricated Elijah McCoy. William Dietz, he created the shoe. Arthur the record player, that was another Joseph Dickinson creation. It goes on and on. Like we did this.
And I'd like to also add Garrett Morgan, who Signal Cleveland is actually coined after, the news outlet that I am working for.
Absolutely. The traffic signal and the gas mask. Yep. Yeah, shout out to him.
And I'm going to just do 3 quick ones. These are more of a modern take. Okay. Some of you will recognize her name. Dr. George Benjamin.
And what did she do?
What did he do?
Yeah.
What did Dr. George Benjamin do? He not only helped establish the emergency medicine residency program for the U.S. Army. Mm-hmm. He served as the public health director in the city of Washington, D.C. He currently, after that, he served as the Secretary of Health in the state of Maryland. Mm. He brought managed Medicaid to the state. Mm-hmm. And currently, for the last 27 years, George has been the CEO, Executive Director of the American Public Health Association.
Wow. Is he still living?
George and I are friends. The other one is Judge.
Wow.
That's amazing, Aylwyn.
Wow.
Another gentleman is Judge George White, federal judge. He started off as a councilman in the old Ward 13.
Wow.
George and I, and David, his son, we would walk the streets with George, Judge White, with all due respect. He became the first black person to serve on the federal district court bench here. He eventually elevated himself to become the chief judge. He was the one who ended the busing program in Cleveland. And the last one is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Albert Moore, another black man. He was,
I'm familiar.
Very politically inclined throughout the city of Clayton, Cuyahoga County. Okay. But he has all claim to fame, but the one thing that a lot of people aren't aware, he was the first black Chief U.S. Marshal in Northeast Ohio.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you're listening to Body Talk. This program addresses topics affecting your body, mind, and soul. We encourage you to think. If you have any questions or comments to make about anything we discuss, you can call into area code 216-939-5087, or you may email them directly to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. And I would like to thank, if I may, Parker, Lila, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me,
They really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I'd like to welcome you back someday soon.
I'd love to come back.
And Body Talk's going to take a 720-second break. For those of you who are good at math, that's 10 minutes, and we'll be right back with more Body Talk. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I really got to jet up out of here. I didn't even realize it was 12 o'clock. I know, but it was so much to come out. It wasn't coming out right.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you for inviting
I'm
me.
teasing you. Hijacked the show, but that's no, that's what I want guests to do. I don't want to sit here and do all the talking.
Right. That's not radio.
Now we're gonna put together. Maybe I'll have you come back. I need another woman to serve on the panel.
Yeah, I will.
It's gonna be 2 men, and I'll give you the general broad topics.
I just want it to be scripted completely, though.
Is what?
I want it to be scripted. Whatever I say needs to be scripted out.
Has to be unscripted.
You know what? Let me tell you something. I'm just, like everything that I read from this, like nothing has changed about him.
Who?
Joe.
Jones?
Yeah, like nothing is. We went to school together. Like I watched him, like be a bully and terrorize
Did you?
lunchrooms, and he was in detention. Like he's the in-house. It was the in-house suspension room. It was in-house suspension in Kennedy. He was in there all the time. And I would come in to monitor and stuff, and he was like a straight asshole.
Oh, he's known as the trouble kid.
Yeah, I watched him fight like almost every day. Yeah.
He got beat up every day. I heard. Did you get some candy?
I'm okay.
He did a lot of picking.
This
Oh, that'll boost you. Good afternoon and welcome back to Body Talk on No Static Radio, where we bring the noise but don't bring the static. If you have questions or want to make a comment, you can reach us at area code 216-939-5087, or if you prefer to email us directly, the email address is bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. If you missed the first hour, you missed the very spirited discussion with Lila Parker of Signal Cleveland. We talked about several topics ranging from gentrification, education, and Mr. Walter Payton's program called Ghetto Therapy. Um, One thing that I have to bring up first, our second guest, she did notify me that she's not feeling well, so she's been rescheduled to come back sometime about the second week in March, if I remember correctly. Her name is Rashonda Jackson Burks. She's the CEO of Two Biosphere, and just to give you a little bit about her and what we are going to not have today, she's an author, she's a minister, and more so, what's interesting about her and why I really wanted to have her on the show is she works in the area of crisis and trauma, and that's what she addresses in and around Greater Cleveland. And so she will be back with us sometime in March. So to fill this hour, or 45 minutes if I may, we're going to bring up or talk about a couple newsworthy hot topics, such as the budget in the city of Cleveland. It's budget time. It's when the mayor has already presented his budget to city council, and departmental hearings will start, I believe, sometime this afternoon. And just from a percentage basis, 54% of the Cleveland city budget is allocated to the safety forces. That encompasses fire, police, EMS, and animal control. And we'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing I want to bring up here is this is Black History Month, and as Marie pointed out, we should be talking about our accomplishments every day, 365 or 366 days a year. As you get to know me a little bit better, you hear me say things, and I gave a speech some years ago, and I called it Black Mystery Month. Let's not make our accomplishments as a people a mystery, especially in our own homes, to our children, to our elders, to our grandchildren, or whomever. Have something to talk about, to share with them about what we have done. We've been more than just slaves, cotton pickers, and troublemakers, entertainers, and athletes. And in all those areas, especially entertainers and athletes, we've accomplished some things. We own the record for the most Grammys won, and we've done this and done that. We own the rushing record, the scoring record in the NBA. Arthur Ashe was the first African American to win the U.S. Open, and et cetera, and I can go on and on. But there's other things, as Marie often shares, she does share with us on every program, the Black accomplishments of the people, our people. So let's dive into one of the topics here, and we have a segment on this program called Small Business Main Street. Mm-hmm. And you can participate in that if you are a business owner. And I mean, you better be a legitimate business owner with a phone number that you answer and services, quality, excellent services that you deliver. You can email your business name and what you do. And if you have a license, that's even better. You can email that to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. And we will check to be sure that's what you do. If you do that and you check out, we will vet you and announce you on the program during the Small Business Main Street segment. See, one of the things, again, in Greater Cleveland, there are some very talented men and women, And I mean, they are talented. And you can be of the European culture, you can be black, but one thing I do believe in, black first. We got to take care of our own first. If you happen to be a wallpaper hanger, I don't know if people still hang wallpaper, but if you're a wallpaper hanger and you're black and you can do just as good a job as somebody else, give that opportunity to that black man or woman first. If you're a good painter, and I mean you own drop cloths, you have your own ladder, you have your own brushes, and you say you're going to start at 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock does not mean 11 o'clock. Please show up on time. So again, if you're a business owner and you want to participate in our segment called Small Business Main Street, you can email your information to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. So the other topic besides the budget, and if you're not aware, I'm sure you've heard about the Mr. Ivy who was placed in jail for 90 days because he had housing violations.
Mm.
Now, the question that I'm going to put out to you, or the discussion, is does the punishment fit the crime? Granted, his neighbors complain. His home is on East Boulevard, if I can call it the Mansion area, Mansion Road, and it is in Ward 7. Does the punishment fit the crime? Should somebody be put in jail for 90 days? And granted, these housing code violations went unaddressed.
Mm.
And I'm not giving Mr. Ivy any excuse, but let's lay out some facts here. Cleveland is known and recognized as the poorest urban city in America.
Mm.
This gentleman happens to be 60 years old.
Wow.
He took care of his mother. He doesn't live in the house. He lives in another home. He does not rent it out. He's in jail. The housing court judge sent him to jail for 90 days. With all true discovery here, after he was sentenced, several people came to his rescue. Some of the pastors in the area across Cleveland, some other residents, some businesses. The question I'm asking is, why did it wait so long? Why didn't he receive the help prior to going to jail? Now, maybe he didn't ask. Closed mouths don't get fed, but he didn't ask. So I want you to think of it this way. If your front door, the hinge, the screws pop out and it's hanging, and you get a housing code violation, you get a second one, you get a third one, you get a fourth one, you get a fifth one, should you go to jail? I'm going to answer for myself. I'm going to answer for my neighbors. No, I don't think so. There's things that neighbors can help neighbors if you're able. There's businesses that can help neighbors. And part of responsibility of the council is to offer or present programs to individuals who need that type of assistance. He's in jail for 90 days, and the I-Team and other media outlets have been trying to interview Judge Monet Scott, and she seems to be MIA, can't be found. Now, eventually she'll have to return to Cleveland, and I'm not trying to condemn or damn her. For lack of better terms, she followed, let's say, what the law said she could do. But again, I'm going to say this again: does the punishment fit the crime?
Mm.
Now, that's up for you to decide. I say no. You might say yes. We can agree to disagree. It's how we agree to disagree. Let's go to the budget here. I'm sure some of the things that you've heard about the budget that stick out, and more so, I gave you a percentage of the safety forces, 54% of the city budget. One of the things that has been bannered about, not only in the media, in the public sphere, and also in council, is they're not going to fill approximately 200 and some odd positions in the Cleveland Police Department. So the staffing level, and for you military people out there, the end strength of the police department is going to be 1498. And the administration said, well, with all this technology out here, we don't need 2,500 officers. And again, to be fair, with full disclosure, every city across this country is facing a crisis in the recruitment and retention of police officers. So what we have to consider here is as that number dwindles, because on the average, just last month, the city of Cleveland, the Cleveland Police Department, they lost 15 officers due to retirement or resignation or transfer or whatever the term you want to use. So that number is going to continue to go down. The question is, they talk about technology, and one of the buzz terms or pieces out here is ShotSpotter. ShotSpotter will identify where gunfire takes place. It can also identify the type of caliber that was fired. And that's quickly sent to the Cleveland Police Department, and the Cleveland Police Department can dispatch an officer to that location. If you don't have the officer, how can you dispatch anybody? Because and maybe my math or thinking is wrong here. You can have all the technology in the world. You can have the fanciest computer. You can have the best fighter planes or bombers, but if you don't have pilots to put in the cockpit or somebody to work the computer, the only thing you have is fancy technology. Now, one of the things that I firmly believe is that because they're not going to fill those positions, is to balance the budget. And also in that number, 24 EMS personnel. That would be people such as EMTs who, when you dial 911 and say, my chest hurts, they get in that big green ambulance and drive to your house. If you don't have those numbers, and let's be reasonable here, let's say 60% of the EMS technicians are on call. They're not going to make it to your house. Time is critical, especially when you talk about having a heart attack or a health crisis. If you don't have enough police officers on patrol, meaning they're visible and making the world perfect, saying that most policemen are good men and women, they're not out here to hurt you or hurt us. If we don't have the numbers on the street, how are the calls going to be answered? If officer 1, 2, 3 through 15 are all tied up on calls, and you happen to be the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th person in the call queue, you're going to wait. Now, as some of you might have heard, I have a military background, and when we used to go out and recruit sailors, we induced them to sign. Meaning, if it was a critical position, you might have been given $30,000 to $50,000 to be a submariner, or you were given $150,000 to become a pilot, or if you were about your service commitment was about to end, not anywhere near retirement, and you were one of those critical specialties, such as being a Cleveland police officer, we gave you a signing bonus, a re-up bonus. It could be anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. Pilots 2 years ago receiving approximately $250,000 to $400,000 just to re-up, because an empty plane cannot fight anybody if we had a war or even a training situation. So the question that I'm posing to the audience, and I want you to think about, even if you prefer not to call, area code 216-939-5087, or email your questions to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. And we're coming to you live on No Static Radio. Are cuts the answer? Now remember, we're talking about your safety, our safety, your city services. If we don't have those basic services, then we have nothing. If you were listening to the show earlier, Lila brought up a comment about the tax base, and this goes back to the budget. One of the favorite crackers, I'm going to call it, or cookies in Cleveland, is to give tax abatement to businesses to come relocate here. And we're not having a lot of businesses relocate to Cleveland because of several factors and variables here. And I've asked of my council person to show me in the budget where the tax abatement is offset by the tax revenue of that particular company. I'm not picking on Sherwin-Williams by any means. And I've gone through the budget. I can't find it. I don't see it. I've asked a couple councilmen, at least 3, and for some reason they seem not to be able to answer the question either. And one thing that if you do watch the budget hearings, and you can go to YouTube and type in Cleveland City Council, there's a hearing, it will pop up. Or you can watch Channel 20 if you live in the city of Cleveland. I'm the type of person, I don't prefer a lot of pontification and blustering. Ask your question. If you don't like what the budget presents, say why you don't like it and say you're not going to support it. Now, what I found interesting last year, City Council passed the deficit budget in the city of Cleveland. A $61 million deficit budget. Think about that. Now there's a budget balance issue. So certain things are not going to be funded. We have to, and I don't want to say or use the term defund the police. But one of the things, and I'm going to put it in maybe a easier or simpler context, if you're a man or woman, I don't care if you're married or whatever the case might be, and you have 3 children and spouse at home, and you're given or you have $200 to go to the grocery store, and you're supposed to stop at whatever store you prefer to pick up the victuals, pick up the groceries for the next 2 weeks. And the kids are sitting at the table along with your wife because you're supposed to bring in something to fix or eat, and you walk in with no bags. Now, either you didn't go to the store or you just, let's say that person just blew the money. What you don't fund, you don't support. Well, if you don't bring the groceries home, or if you, excuse me, threw the money away trying to play the mega lottery or whatever's out there, and you didn't bring the victuals home, the food home, that means you don't care. So you're not trying to feed your family. So programs you don't fund, you don't believe in, you don't support them. That's budgeting 101. If you want something to disappear, don't fund it. That means you do not believe in it. The other thing that we have to look at, there's certain, they talk about violence initiatives. I'm all for any initiative that will end or help stem the violence in Cleveland. And it's somewhat tied to the police department. But if you have patrols on the street, Johnny and Mary might say, you know what, I got to be careful because every time I look up, I see 2 and 3 police cars go by. The other thing is when you do have a crime committed, then that case, let's say, is turned over to the detective bureau. If you don't have enough detectives and they're overworked, I think the last statistic I looked at from the FBI, they recommend that the atypical detective have anywhere from 6 to 8 active cases he or she should be working. That number is low in the city of Cleveland. They have detectives working double digits. The other thing I would recommend or suggest to the city of Cleveland is why don't you tier the salary structure? And you should have what's called the hot recruiting team. And in the city of Cleveland, you at least have to be 21 years old to become a police officer. So why aren't you actively out there in the high schools, or let's say on the road at some of the colleges, the HBCUs? That seems to be a new phenomenon in the city of Cleveland, where they decided they're going to start recruiting the HBCUs, and maybe they're focusing on grabbing enough minority officers. And I'm going to say this as a personal aside, I really don't care what culture you are if I call 911 and you respond or come to my house or business, I don't care if you're black, white, Asian. I don't care if you're male or female. I just want you to be professional and polite and do what you're supposed to do. If you have a hot recruiting team and you're out there actively trying to recruit 21-year-olds, and let's say they're 22 if they do attend college, it could be a community college. Anybody with at least, let's say, a high school diploma starts at the base salary. Anybody with an associate's degree gets a $15,000 or $2,000 a year bump. Anybody with a bachelor's degree gets $4,000 above the base salary. Anybody with a master's gets at least, let's say, $6,000 or $7,000. Anybody with a terminal degree, such as PhD or a law degree, gets an $8,000 bump. But Cleveland doesn't do that. Everybody starts at the same salary level. So it's not that compensation is the big inducement, but it sure helps a lot when you're trying to recruit people. If you're trying to retain officers, as I mentioned earlier, you give them that bonus to sign up again. Let's say it's $30,000. I give you $10,000, 30 days from the day. I'll give you another $10,000 a year from that day on the anniversary, and I'll give you the last 10 on the third year. Again, that might be an inducement or whatever. Plus, you also have to have an internal culture that is supportive of the police officers out here. You can't treat somebody bad and think you're going to keep them. You can't treat your husband and wife bad and think they're not going to land and take you to divorce court. That's not going to happen. That's why some of these officers are leaving. Look internal. See what's going on. If you have poor supervisors, usually what happens, people run away. They leave. They retire early. They take a transfer. I will grant you this. I know several police officers. It's dangerous out here. It's dangerous. And some of them, not the ones I know, but some police officers in the city of Cleveland and across this country do terrible things. But there's more good police officers than bad police officers. Weed the bad ones out, keep the good ones in, and continue to bring good ones in. I'm encouraging everybody, especially if you want to understand what's going on in your city, watch the budget hearings. Pay attention to what those council members say when they have the departments from the administration sitting across from them. Listen to the questions. Over the last year and during the entire Jackson administration, no budget was ever rejected by city council.
Wow.
Not a one. Now either, and with all due respect to the Jackson administration, meaning Frank Jackson, the former mayor, and his staff, either they came up with the magic number or city council just was not doing their job. You know, you hear certain councilmen today, and I'll mention one, where Jones stands up and says Frank Jackson didn't do anything in Ward 1. Now he should be ashamed of himself because in spite of who he is, Frank served Ward 1. He did. He did things in spite of what we had to work with. He'll stand up there, or sit more so, and he will pontificate about things, unable to follow things. And there was an article that came out in Cleveland.com written by, I'm sorry, I cannot remember her first name, by the writer Kula. And she did a PS. She actually identified 3 councilmen. The 2 other council members she identified, she gave them basically pats on the back. She didn't have too many good things to say about Mr. Jones. And she put a PS at the bottom of her article. Please, somebody sit next to him and teach him how to follow an agenda. Sometimes pay close attention to who you have serving you. And sometimes the people we have serving us, we think, are more self-serving than anything. You know, one of the things that I learned to do, you have to observe people. And he's one of the few people I know. He positions himself in meetings so that he's always in camera shot. He wants to be an important person but doesn't know how to do important things. And until the residents in Ward 1 recognize that, they're going to continue to get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And as the record, as Roland pointed out earlier, nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's important here, move on to another topic. And again, we're on the Body Talk radio program, No Static Radio Network. If you have a comment or a question, you can call in at 216-939-5087, or you can email it directly to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. One of the other things that's been in the news here is the so-called UFOs that have been flying over the country. And if you don't know what a UFO is, that's an unidentified flying object. If you know anything about how this country functions, we have so many radars. If they really wanted to find you, you could be found. Okay? And there's a system in this country called NORAD, and it tracks everything that comes in our airspace. And it's actually headquartered in Denver, and they have different satellites or radars all over the country. And there are satellites up in space that track objects. And it's been proven, especially with the two they shot down recently, that they were Chinese balloons. And if you know anything about the Chinese, very technologically advanced country, and these particular balloons can be maneuvered from Beijing. That's how far technology has come. It's probably well beyond that now. And these balloons, the first one that took 10 days to be shot down, were flying over military installations just by accident. And if you know anything about technology, as that balloon or plane is flying, it's taking pictures that are sent back to, let's say, Beijing. So we shot it down after it made it over into the Atlantic Ocean. And it's at the bottom of the ocean, and it's going to be, after it's recovered, more so the electronic pieces of it, it'll be sent to the FBI lab, which is in Quantico, Virginia, on the Quantico Marine Corps base. And they'll take it apart and see if they can capture some of the images. It'll be kind of tough because of the salt water that the camera sat in, along with the electronics. And I don't know if you heard, but yesterday, the president embodied a commission to determine what these balloons are or what we should do. And I go back to that famous oath that the president and military officers take. It says, to defend the country, the Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So, one of the beliefs or understandings that I've come to have is committees and commissions, they meet and they have great breakfasts, brunches, lunches, dinners, and they sit around and they write a paper, a document, and it'll say something bad, say something good, but nothing generally is ever done. And if you don't believe me, go back to the Kerner Commission report that was written about poverty in the country that affected black people. We can go on and on and on. The Kennedy assassination report, and for some crazy reason that was sealed. But if you know anything about this country, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and there's certain things I'm not able to say, but I will share with you. NORAD, NSA, CIA, they know what those balloons are. Let's just leave it at that. They know what they are. You're listening to Body Talk on the No Static Radio Network. If you have a comment or question, you can dial in 216-939-5087, or you can email directly to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. One of the things that we're going to take just a quick break here, and we'll be back after 360 seconds.
If you, a family member, or a friend have been affected by violence, know that violence can affect your life in all types of ways. Violence can affect the way you eat, sleep, and cause you to lose focus, feel angry or afraid, or even use drugs or drinking as a way to escape. But we're here to tell you that violence doesn't have to keep hurting, and you can change your life starting now with help from the Trauma Recovery Center. We want you to take control of your life because today can be the day. The Trauma Recovery Center offers real help for real needs in real time. They offer services for food, clothes, safety, emotional support, and a whole lot more. So listen, don't let violence control you. You can break free, and TRC can help. Give them a call at 216-644-5487. They will come to you wherever you are. They are free 24/7 and confidential. So look, if you want out and don't know where to start, call the Trauma Recovery Center. The Trauma Recovery Center will help you take back your life after violence starting today. Call today. Get the help you need today. 216-644-5487, the Trauma Recovery Center of Northeast Ohio, also affiliated with the Center for Families and Children, and also 6812 Woodland Avenue every first and third Saturday of every single month from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Major Care Ministries and the Cleveland Food Bank are providing free groceries and a whole lot more. They also serve free hot meals at 11 a.m. and a free clothes giveaway all week long for adults and children. So again, the address is 6812 Woodland Avenue, every first and third Saturday of every single month from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And while I might have said a lot of good stuff, the best part about it is you don't need proof of income or ID. Like you can come from Texas, and if you need food while you're here in Ohio, Major Care Ministries and the Cleveland Food Bank on that first or third Saturday are here to help. Again, 6812 Woodland Avenue, every first and third Saturday of every single month from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Don't forget about the free hot meals at 11 if you're hungry, and a free clothes giveaway for adults and children. And finally, listen, it is an honor to be able to present and promote small businesses and establishments here at No Static Radio. And today I would like to introduce to some and reintroduce to others JB Wellness. Located here in the No Static Radio studios at 3030 Euclid Avenue, Suite 212B. JB Wellness. Healing is hard work. You don't have to do it alone. When I becomes we, mental illness becomes mental wellness. Yeah, so call 216-302-8983 for your appointment. She is accepting new patients. And yeah, get your life, get your wellness, get your health. Health is wealth, and wealth is health. And now back to Body Talk with your host, Aylwyn Bridges. Take it away, Al.
Thank you, Marie, and I hope everybody pays attention to what Marie reads and says. Not only does she offer good information, it's information that you can use. It follows the Body Talk format of we have a program that affects your mind, body, and soul. Let me share with you a couple things really quick here. Next week, we're going to have a young lady by the name of Stacy Safika. She's probably one of the most brilliant young ladies that I know and had opportunity to work with. She is probably one of the best strategists that you will ever listen to and talk with. And the first gentleman who's going to participate in our small business Main Street segment is a gentleman by the name of Howard Hopkins. He has a business. I'm not going to share with you what his business is because I prefer him to do that. But I met this outstanding gentleman about maybe 6-7 years ago, and he kept plugging away, and now he has really taken off. Then after that, on the 28th, those two individuals are going to be on the 21st of February. On the 28th of February, I have a Miss Miller is going to be on Body Talk. She is a published author in Cleveland. There's some excellent writers in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And this young lady, this queen, this sister, is sharp. So you have to be prepared to listen to her in an 11-hour segment. And there's another young lady, because we're still celebrating in my mind, if I may, Valentine's Day, Miss Stacy Lacey. She's going to come on and tell you how to save your life in your own home. She is a CPR instructor and some other things, some other information she will give to you. An outstanding lady. And then on the 7th of March, we have the JFK Alumni Association,
Oh, wow.
Association coming in. And they're going to talk about the association, the programs that they have, and how and what they do to support the current students. And I'm not taking anything away from any other alumni association in the Cleveland Public School System. Again, if you would like to appear on the show, you do have the number, but I will give it to you before I finish here. You're more than welcome to come on the show. But the JFK Alumni Association does things for the current student body and the future students at JFK that are just phenomenal. And they are really fully engaged, and without question, they have alums across this country. And when they have their big picnic and or sometimes class dinners, you have people come as far away as Portland, Oregon. And that's a long way if you've never been out there. Okay? If you have or want to appear on the program, please feel free to call area code 216-939-5087. Or if you would like to email me and say, hey, I would like to be on your show. I want to talk about this. I want to do this, and I'll give you a call. Email bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. One of the other things that I think we need to focus on here. Oh, and I'm sorry. I will have a couple candidates come on the show who are running for certain offices.
Mm-hmm.
That does not mean, I'm going to say it again, that does not mean that I am supporting them or encouraging you to vote for them. I'm giving you an opportunity to hear them and to ask them questions on why you would want to vote for them or not vote for them. Okay? The other thing that I want to bring up here that I want you to really, really think about is, what is your spring and summer going to look like in your community? Again, it goes back to the budget process, the safety forces. Do you feel safe just putting on your sneakers, tennis shoes, Chuck Taylors, and walking around the block in your own neighborhood? I want you also to take a look at your communities. Determine if your community is growing or is it dying. And by that I mean, don't just look at the traffic patterns. Look at the housing stock. Look at how the housing stock is being taken care of. Do you know your neighbors? Do you know the person who lives next door on both sides of your home? And do you know the people who live across the street?
Mm-hmm.
I call it the 4 square program.
Yeah.
If you don't know if you don't know your 4 squares, and I'm not trying to, make fun of you or anybody else. If you don't know your 4 squares, you have a problem.
Yeah.
Because they or you should be looking out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can do 6 square or 9 square or whatever, but at least the people on your driveway side, if you have one, and the people on the other side of your house, and the people across the street, those two homes. It's called the 4 square program. Do you have an active street club? See, one thing that I do, and it's not a brag statement, in the wintertime, when the snow is bad, as I do my driveway, I do 2 or 3 neighbors' driveways. And I don't ask them to be compensated.
Yeah.
I just do it because that's the way we were reared. And we're predominantly talking about senior citizens, and by age I'm considered a senior. But these men and women are a little bit older than I am. They might not be as flexible or mobile as I am, but I help take care of them. And I don't ask them for a thing, nothing. Now come the springtime, they'll come out and say, thank you, I really appreciate that, or whatever. The other thing I want to bring up, and it's happening more so across the city, but I'm going to focus on the Black community here. We are living in what's called the sandwich generation. Our parents are living longer. And with our parents living longer and us being in the middle, and if we have children, we're sandwiched. We take care of our parents, we take care of our children, but one thing we don't do is take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things as a caregiver, a long-term caregiver, I did take care of my mom. I retired early to take care of her because her wish was not to be placed in a nursing home. It takes its toll. Not necessarily physically, it takes a mental toll. And it takes time to recover. I also have a friend who just recently had a surgery, and I wish her a speedy recovery. She's doing much better because she finally acknowledged that it's good to walk with a cane or a crutch to take the weight off of her particular foot.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent her some pictures of a couple surgeries that I had, and I sent her a song. It's a gospel song, "Don't Complain." And after she looked at the picture, she wrote me back and said, "I'm not complaining about my foot anymore." Okay? One of the things, again, as black folks in Cleveland, because we all live in some type of crisis. I don't care if it's a financial crisis, a relationship crisis, or a job crisis. And as far as I know, nobody ever has enough money. And one of the things that we have to learn how to do is to take care of ourselves. And, speaking on money, one of the things that I laugh at now, my grandmother used to call me and she would say when she was alive, say, well, I'm on a fixed budget. And I would tell her, I said, we're all on a fixed budget. My budget might be a little bit bigger than yours, so I'll call you instead, when I used to travel out of town a lot. And one of the things that we have to learn as black folks is how to make money work for us. And by that I mean most of us know how to go to work for money, but we don't know how to invest our money. So I've reached out to a couple financial people, and again, that does not mean you have to, we're not endorsing them, we're not supporting them. Nobody pays us to come on this show. And just listen to them. So if you have an extra 20, 30, whatever, $40, instead of going to Dave's or Giant Eagle or some gas station trying to hit the lottery, go invest it. And you'd be surprised how much your money will turn around for you. As we prepare to wrap up today, again, you're listening to the Body Talk radio program on the No Static Network, radio network. The number here is area code 216-939-5087. If you prefer to email us, and again, don't forget, if you are a small business person and you would like to participate in the Small Business Main Street program, you can email your information to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. The last thing I will say is this. We are working to put together a panel to come on this program in mid-March, mid to late March. And we're going to talk about 4 topics. 2 hours is going to be dedicated to the panel. And I'm encouraging you, those that are listening, I'm also encouraging you to tell or share with your friends, neighbors, family, to listen to that particular program and all our programs. Because there's a theme that you will hear here through every program that I bring on here, any guest. Most of the guests, if not all of the guests, have information to change our lives. One of the things I firmly believe in, we need to learn something every day. And not only do I do that on Body Talk, there are other programs on the No Static Network that do the same thing. Listen to them. Learn how to listen, learn, discern, and then decide. So with that, I wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. Don't forget, for the men out there, squeeze her, tease her, take her home and please her. Be sure you buy her some roses, some chocolate. If you can, find a Mr. Goodbar candy bar or something fancier than that and say just, honey, I love you, I appreciate you, respect you. I don't have to tell you that on Valentine's Day because I love and do that for you every day. If you are a woman, it's okay to tell your man, baby, I love you. I'm standing behind you. I'm standing next to you. I'm your protector. So thank you for listening to Body Talk. Again, my name is Al Bridges, and I'll see you next week. Now that's when people cancel on you like that. That's hard.
Yeah, yeah.
That's hard.
It's okay though.
Oh no, I'm not upset with it.
Yeah, it gives the listeners and viewers a chance to see you. You know, personal content outside of guests is important.
Because she actually texted me early this morning. If she was texting me yesterday.
That's right. We'd like to thank you for tuning in to Body Talk with your host, Aylwyn Bridges, here on the station where we don't bring no static, but we sure enough bring the noise on staticradio.net. Make sure you guys check us out on social media where we absolutely love to hear from you on Facebook.com/No Static Radio LLC, on Twitter at No Static _radio, on Instagram at The Real _No Static Radio, and on YouTube at No Static Radio. Also, if you guys like to listen to replays of this show and others on NoStaticRadio.net, please make sure you check us out on Mixler or Mixcloud.com. Just type in No Static Radio in the toolbar for replays of this show and all others on the platform. And for continuous streaming, that means no rebuffering, no refreshing. Just sit back, relax, and, wait for your next show to pop up with a little commercial. But boom, then you got us. Check us out on TuneIn.com, LiveOnlineRadio.net, or MediaQ for continuous streaming of this show and all others on the platform. And for all things No Static Radio, including up and coming events, merchandise, and an in-depth look at all our great show hosts here, please check out our website at www.nostaticradio.net. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Because things have moved around. We're a big part of the community here at No Static Radio. Coming up at 2 p.m. today, guess what we got? We got Hustle and Wax Flow and everything else coming up from 2 to 4 p.m. instead of on Monday. So yeah, you got them on Tuesdays, you guys, for this month. So stay tuned. Hustle and Wax Flow coming up at 2 p.m. What a treat. Followed on later on this evening with today's gospel music show with your host, the Reverend Doctor. In the meantime and in between time, you guys know what it is. We've got more music for your listening pleasure here on Your Voice of the Revolution of staticradio.net. Powered by Google, partnered with Colors on YouTube, and sponsored by Lamont Avenue Wines, the Cleveland Rugby League, and Design Me exclusively, also known as Hot Girls Gear. You guys be safe, have fun, enjoy this beautiful weather, and we'll be back at you. Peace.
Yeah, she disappeared, and then a couple of ladies were going to. I wrote a letter, which I think is in that package, to Mayor Bibb and said, "You better get out in front of this."
Yeah, yeah.
And so then all of a sudden, the case gets assigned to a special prosecutor, which we thought was going to be beneficial to Lila, because on her website, prosecutor's website, she said, "Well, the first priority is the issues at Beechwood Place, and the other one is assaults on women." I said, "Oh, you got a pretty favorable person." So Lila, which is okay. She's a big grown woman. She goes to the interview by herself. And so many months went by. Lila sends me that letter from the prosecutor. And I'm like, "Why didn't you give this to me when I said, I'm not mad that you went by yourself. You have every right to do that. But you're handing me this letter in May."
Right.
I said,
what the heck?
I said, "It's not that I don't mind looking